It is right for me to feel this way about you all, because I hold you in my heart, for you are all partakers with me of grace, both of my imprisonment and in the defense and confirmation of the gospel. It is Saturday, the 4th day of February 2023, and it's time for the reading of our devotional thought for today. And it's being read from the book Truth for Life by pastor and author Alistair Begg, and this is the second edition. Today, Pastor Alistair Begg's devotional thought is entitled, The Bonds of the Gospel. That's the Bonds of the Gospel. And our verse, Philippians chapter 1, verse 7, which reads, It is right for me to feel this way about you all, because I hold you in my heart, for you are all partakers with me of grace, both of my imprisonment and in the defense and confirmation of the gospel. That's Philippians chapter 1, verse 7. Alistair Begg writes, Commitment to each other is non-negotiable in the Christian life. We see this again and again in the life and writing of the Apostle Paul. As he wrote to the church of Philippi, he was unashamed of sharing with them just how he felt about them, because he was so appreciative of the fellowship he enjoyed with them. Indeed, the word partakers in this verse actually comes from the Greek word koinonia, a word Paul frequently uses to describe a sharing partnership. Paul described the Philippian church as his joy and crown in Philippians chapter 4, verse 1. His heart was filled with love for all of the churches who were under his care, but he regarded these brothers and sisters in a special way. They stood out, for they had stuck with Paul through thick and thin. Separated as the Philippians were from Paul when he wrote to them while under arrest in Rome, they could quite possibly have been swept away by other teachers with more impressive personalities, more striking characters, or more eloquent language, but they continued to stand with Paul. Their depth of fellowship was strengthened by their consistency, which filled the apostle with joy and stimulated his outbursts of affection. The example of this early church is a challenging call to contemporary Christianity, which, if we're honest, is all too often marked by fickleness. Many Christians tend to be uncommitted when times are good and unreliable when times are bad. We so easily treat the opportunities of fellowship, worship, and hearing of God's Word with an arm's length approach. If a teacher or a book appeals to our sense of need, scratches where we itch, or tickles our fancy, then we engage with them for a while. But if things go awry, or if we find our way of life challenged, or if being alongside another Christian becomes costly rather than easy, then the temptation for many of us is to head out for new pastures. Paul shows us a better way, a more Christ-like way. We are called to choose commitment to one another through the ups and downs of life. The binding element between Paul and the Philippians is the same element which can bind our hearts. In seeing one another endure difficulties, in running to one another in the experience of loss, and in receiving from one another the enjoyment of restoration, we can discover that our hearts are actually being molded together in the bonds of the gospel. Through such consistency, we will find God strengthening our fellowship and increasing our joy with other believers. So, does commitment describe your attitude to those God has placed in the fellowship around you? Do they know that you are there for them in the downs as well as the ups? To whom can you write an encouragement, or for whom will you say a prayer right now? That concludes our devotional thought for today, the bonds of the gospel, and what a bond it truly is. May we find ourselves allowing God by His Spirit to strengthen that bond, and today find a way, perhaps even through a prayer or word of encouragement to those that God has bound you with in the gospel. Well, for those of you reading through the Word in a year, your assignment today, is Isaiah chapters 37 and 38, as well as Luke's Gospel chapter 9, verses 30 through 50. Clive Walsh here. May the Lord richly bless you. Have a great day.